Hey, what is going on, everybody out there? This is Jakejames Lugo. Welcome to the channel and welcome to a brand new episode of JJ's One Man Podcast. This time, this is going to be very unplanned. This is kind of like on the minute as things are happening because today, what we're talking about literally just happened not too long ago. The Game of the Year nominees and just all the different nominees for the Game Awards 2020. Now, if you guys don't already know, I've talked about this every single year. I actually like watching the Game Awards. I followed them since pretty much the very beginning, ever since they were known as the VGAs when Jeff Keighley was still doing them in a different way than what he's doing now. But today, we got the nominees for Game of the Year and all the other categories for 2020. And trust me, I got a lot to say. I got a lot to unpack with this one. But as I'm talking about this, let me know in the comments section some of your thoughts about the Game Awards, some of your picks for Game of the Year or any of the other games that you're thinking are going to win in the different categories. And yeah, hopefully this should be pretty fun in the discussion in the comments. So let's dive right into this. So let's start off with Game of the Year. Let's start off with the big one, right? Since that's the first one that's literally on their website. Now, this year, within the last day or so, Jeff Keighley and the Game Awards account has been teasing and talking a little bit about okay, what do you guys think are going to be the nominees? Who do you think is going to be picked? Who's going to win and stuff? And this year, I'm happy to say, I guessed 5 out of the 6 nominees correctly. I only missed one. Now, the nominees this year, okay, are Doom Eternal, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Ghost of Tsushima, I kind of mess up that time every time, Hades, and Animal Crossing, and The Last of Us Part 2. Now, I got every single one of those right picked, guessing what the nominees were going to be, except for Doom Eternal. And the reason why, I could tell you right now, is because I swear to God, I thought that they were going to pick Ori and the Will of the Wisp. Because I looked online on a couple different outlets as well as also Metacritic, and Ori and the Will of the Wisp got some pretty high scores in the mid 90s or close to high 90s, and I thought that people were really going to give that one some props. Doom kind of came out of nowhere because people love Doom, and I love Doom. Don't get me wrong, I love Doom Eternal and Doom, but I felt that a lot of people weren't really that crazy about Doom Eternal this time, as fun as it might be, because it got a lot of praise from different people, but I didn't see as much praise for it as much as I did for Ori and the Will of the Wisp. So I thought that was going to go in that direction, but this ended up surprising me, but I still got 5 of the nominees correct. Now, my personal pick out of this entire list, because I feel like there's a strong case for every single one of these games, I'm picking Final Fantasy VII Remake. I feel that's the one game out of all these games here that really made a huge emotional impact on a lot of people. I don't mean emotional with the storytelling and all this stuff, but just the whole backstory about that game and the way how it was so important to so many people and the way that it was handled upon release. The discussion about it was insane for people that loved it, for people that hated it. It was really a big thing. You could say the same thing about The Last of Us Part 2, but I felt like there's all this other weight, and just the end result for Final Fantasy VII Remake really kind of shows me that this game was not only played great, it looked great, it sounded great, but it had all this other stuff going for it. So I feel like that's going to be the game that ends up winning, or at least personally for me. Now, if it doesn't win, I will say that my second pick is going to be Ghost of Tsushima. I've always been saying that for most of the year, ever since I played that game, and Final Fantasy VII Remake. But Ghost of Tsushima, you got to give a lot of props. That game is awesome. That game is phenomenal. I would definitely be happy if that game won and Final Fantasy VII didn't win. But the one I think that also has a very strong case that I think is going to come out of left field for a lot of people is going to be Hades. And the reason why I say that is because there is a lot of people in the gaming media and a lot of gaming websites that really love Hades. There's a lot of great buzz going for that game. So a lot of people are pretty sure are going to expect that The Last of Us Part 2 is going to get that nod and might win over the others. But I bet you that if Ghost of Tsushima and Final Fantasy VII Remake don't win, Hades is going to take it. Watch. Remember that I said that. So best direction, we have Final Fantasy VII Remake, Ghost of Tsushima, Hades, Half-Life Alyx, The Last of Us Part 2. I think that more than likely, The Last of Us Part 2 is probably going to get the nod there from a lot of outlets that are voting for these winners. But if I had to pick one, I would say either Final Fantasy VII Remake or Ghost of Tsushima again. Those games had a lot of great direction, especially in the art direction for some of them, but that's a whole separate category. But I feel like, again, Final Fantasy VII Remake, with just the representation of that story and reinterpreted for this generation of consoles, looked absolutely phenomenal. I felt like everything about it was handled in such a great way. But anyway, that's just my pick. Best narrative, we have 13 Sentinels, we have Final Fantasy VII Remake, Ghost of Tsushima, Hades, and The Last of Us Part 2. Again, I feel like you can make an argument for either Final Fantasy VII Remake, Ghost of Tsushima, or The Last of Us Part 2. And again, Hades gets the nod in there. 13 Sentinels, I didn't get to play. Some people said it's really good. It's kind of got that Pulp Fiction aspect to it, where there's a lot of different time swapping between the different narratives of what's going on with the overall story. But again, for me, my biggest pick probably for that one is either going to be Final Fantasy VII Remake, or it's going to go to The Last of Us Part 2 when it comes to the narrative. Next category, best art direction. Hands down, I have a pick for this. So the nominees are Final Fantasy VII Remake, Ghost of Tsushima, Hades, Ori and the Will of the Wisp, and The Last of Us Part 2. I am absolutely going to pick Ghost of Tsushima out of there, okay? Because art direction, granted, a lot of people are probably going to pick Hades, because Hades looks phenomenal. Hades looks great for a lot of people. But personally for me, I'm telling you right now, I love Ghost of Tsushima. I love the way that the game looks. It looks phenomenal. There's so many beautiful visuals in that game and the way that things just look. And that's not even including the filters. Keep in mind, there's a whole Akira Kurosawa filter in there that gives that game a whole new coat of paint, which looks freaking fantastic. But that's my personal pick. If that game doesn't end up winning, I'm pretty sure Hades is probably going to take that one. Even though, like I said, Final Fantasy VII Remake looks great, but realistically, those are my picks. Best music and best score. Okay, so we got Doom Eternal, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Hades, Ori and the Will of the Wisp, and The Last of Us Part 2. Without question, this is going to go to Final Fantasy VII Remake. Like, I'd be very surprised if Final Fantasy VII Remake does not win this one. I know that people love Doom Eternal soundtrack, and I think also the soundtrack of Hades is pretty darn good. But if you listen to that music for Final Fantasy VII Remake, you know exactly why that game is going to win this category. It just sounds so good. So many great remixes, original tracks like that are based off some of the original music from the older game. It looks absolutely awesome. Absolutely awesome. Best audio design now. Best audio design is Doom Eternal, Half-Life Alyx, Ghost of Tsushima, Resident Evil 3, and The Last of Us Part 2. This is a weird category for me to choose. Whoops, hold on. I even messed up my actual, phone here, because I'm looking at the nominees on my phone. But that's a weird category to choose because each one of those games have good sound direction. Like, there's a lot of good sound design in them, and there's a lot of arguments you could make for each one of those. However, if I really had to pick one, I would have to say Ghost of Tsushima. And the reason why I say Ghost of Tsushima over something like Resident Evil 3 or The Last of Us Part 2 is because one of the things that I think that Ghost of Tsushima does very well is when there's silence or when there's very little ambient sound, or not ambient sound, but like very little sound around you going on, where it's not chaotic, where you're in fights or anything like that. When you're just in the fields and you hear the wind breezing, like when you're actually trying to find your direction, you're just listening to the wind and the ambient noise around you, that is awesome audio design to me. Like, fantastic audio design. I would be very surprised that that game doesn't get the nod for that. Again, you can make great, You can make great arguments for Doom Eternal, as well as also possibly Resident Evil 3 or The Last of Us Part 2, but that's my personal pick. Best performance, okay? So best performance by a voice actor. We have a lot of different people in here, right? We have Ashley Johnson as Ellie in The Last of Us Part 2, Laura Bailey as Abby in The Last of Us Part 2, Daisuke Tsuji as Jin Sakai in Ghost of Tsushima, Logan Cunningham as Hades in Hades, and also I hope I pronounced this right, Naji Jeter as Miles Morales. Personally, for me, if I had to pick one that I would love to see win, I would love to see Naji win for Miles Morales. Because I think he did a fantastic job in Spider-Man PS4, and he's doing a fantastic job in Miles Morales. Who I think is going to win this one is going to be Laura Bailey as Abby. I have a strong feeling, or Ashley Johnson as Ellie. I feel like this is going to be one of those categories that The Last of Us Part 2 walks away with. In all honesty. Granted, I didn't play Hades like that, so I didn't listen to Hades' voice acting, and I like Jin Sakai, but I don't think he's as good when it comes to emoting and other stuff going on for him as some of these other characters, especially Miles Morales. I feel like that's going to be my personal pick. If that one wins, I'm totally cool, but if it doesn't, I'm telling you, The Last of Us Part 2 is going to take that. So games for impact is the next category, right? We have games, a lot of these games I did not play, so I can't really say like who my personal pick is. We have If Found by Dreamfeel. We have Kentucky Road Zero TV Edition by Cardboard Computer. Spiritfarer by Thunder Lotus Games, and Tell Me Why by Don't Nod, and Through the Darkest of Times by Paint Bucket Games. Again, I've never played any of these games, so I can't really choose, so I'm just going to say, like, hopefully the one that's the best one will win. Let's move on. Best ongoing game. Now, this is another one that's weird, right? We have Apex Legends, we have Destiny 2, we have Call of Duty Warzone, Fortnite, and No Man's Sky. Granted, again, I'm not a huge fan of No Man's Sky, but that's from my own personal bias and stuff. I really believe that Fortnite is going to take this. If you look at some of the extra content, the DLC, and the special events that Fortnite has been doing, it's absolutely insane. Okay, they got stuff for Marvel. They got stuff for Star Wars now. They're nuts. They're taking this category, hands down. I cannot see Call of Duty or Destiny 2 or Apex Legends taking this. There's just no way, honestly. So next category, best indie game, okay? We've got Carrion, we got Fall Guys Ultimate Knockout, Hades, Splunky 2, and Spiritfarer. I'll tell you right now, Hades is taking this. Without question. I didn't play Hades, but I'll tell you right now, with the actual conversation about Hades with all these different outlets, Hades is taking this one. You can make the argument about Fall Guys, and I played Fall Guys, and Fall Guys is dope, but Fall Guys felt like it fell off the face of the earth at some point, especially when Among Us came out. So I'm picking Hades to win this one. Best mobile game. Here's another weird category, and I'm going to give you guys an argument. You guys let me know in the comments whether you agree or disagree with me, right? So for best mobile game, we have Among Us, we have Call of Duty Mobile, Genshin Impact, we have also, Legends of Runeterra, which I never heard before, and Pokemon Cafe Mix. A really weird category. Now, the reason why I say this is weird too is because as much as I love Among Us, and as much as I think that so many people love Among Us as well, the problem is though, and the reason why I keep seeing a lot of people kind of like discuss this, Among Us came out a couple of years ago. Okay, so Among Us did not come out in 2020. So personally for me, if we're being fair here, I would say that Among Us should not be in this category. Among Us shouldn't be in any of the categories, to be honest with you, for the Game Awards 2020, because Among Us came out years ago, and it only now just got a resurgence with popularity because of content creators and stuff, and that's cool, but when you're talking about games of the year, okay, or games that are like marking this year of 2020, Among Us should not be included in that category. It should have been gone to another mobile game. But again, that's my own personal opinion. Let me know if you guys agree or disagree with me. I think more than likely Among Us is going to win this. If that doesn't win, then Genshin Impact is going to win. Because Genshin Impact is a game that came out this year and it has gotten a lot of attention. A lot of people really like that game. But if that doesn't end up winning, it's going to go to Among Us. So best community support, right? Best community support, we got Apex Legends, we got Destiny 2, Fall Guys Ultimate Knockout, Fortnite, and No Man's Sky. And also Valorant. Okay, personally for me, Fortnite's going to win this. Again, you can't compete with some of the crazy events that they've been doing with Fortnite. Even though I'm not a big Fortnite guy, and I respect a lot of what these other games have been doing, you got to respect what Fortnite's done. Again, Marvel and Star Wars, and a bunch of other events. Like, they're just ongoing. They're still one of the biggest multiplayer games out there. It's insane. And like I said, Fall Guys Ultimate Knockout just kind of fell off the face of the earth. Like, I don't see how anybody could really vote for that game right now. Best AR and best VR game. Okay, so we got Dreams. We have Half-Life Alyx, which a lot of people seem to be talking about for a number of different reasons. Marvel's Iron Man VR and Star Wars Squadrons VR, and then The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners. I think personally, even though I don't play a lot of VR games, I really think that Half-Life Alyx is going to win this. And the reason being personally for me, from what I've read, is because a lot of outlets and a lot of media people that have played VR games, that have gone out of their way to have like VR experiences, have played Half-Life Alyx, and they swear by it. They say it's the best VR experience they've ever played. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's valid, but more than likely from all the different people that are going to be voting on these categories, Half-Life Alyx is probably going to walk away with this over any of these other games, because you can make the hard argument that Star Wars Squadrons really isn't a VR game. It's a VR experience. You could play it in VR, but it's not necessarily a VR game. But again, that's just my personal opinion. So innovation and accessibility is the next category. So this isn't something too important to me, but I understand why it's being featured as a category, and I understand why it's so important to a lot of people. So we got Assassin's Creed Valhalla, we got Grounded, we've got Hyperroot, The Last of Us Part 2, and Watch Dogs Legions. Honestly, I think from the conversation I've seen from a lot of people, and I've even watched Steven's video, The Blind Gamer, he actually has talked about a lot of this stuff, and he does a lot of videos about accessibility. I think that they're probably going to give it to Assassin's Creed Valhalla, because I know from seeing some of the different things that some people have said, like, it's got some good accessibility stuff, but I could be wrong. Again, I haven't played Valhalla like that, and I haven't really looked into this type of stuff, so we'll see what happens with that one. Best action game. Okay, now here we go. Here we go to stuff that I want to talk about, right? Best action game, the nominees are Doom Eternal, we got Hades, we got Half-Life Alyx, Neo 2, and Streets of Rage 4. So out of this category, personally, I think that Hades is going to take it. If Hades doesn't take this one, it's going to go to Doom Eternal. I feel like this is going to be like one of the only awards that Doom Eternal walks away with, if at all. Because Hades is going to get some nods this year. Hades is going to get a lot of nods from a lot of people that are voting on these categories, big time, straight up. I could see the argument for Half-Life Alyx, but not a lot of people really played this game because they don't have access to VR. That's solely because of the media people that have played VR-style games or have been able to play Half-Life Alyx. So, that being said, let's move on to the next one. Best Action Adventure. Okay, another good one. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Ghost of Tsushima, Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales, Ori and the Will of the Wisp, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, and The Last of Us Part 2. Now, you could make an argument for any one of these games, but personally, I'm giving it to Ghost of Tsushima. That's the one I played the most, and that's the one that I think is really like spectacular. I could also see an argument being made for Miles Morales, even though that came out fairly recently. Spider-Man Miles Morales is pretty darn good, but even though it's essentially the same game as Spider-Man PS4. But if I had to pick one, it would definitely be Ghost of Tsushima. Any of these other games, a lot of people like Valhalla from what it seems like, and a lot of people really love Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. That I heard is supposed to be really good. Even if you're not into the Soul-style games, I heard that's supposed to be really freaking good in many ways. And the same thing you could also say, if Last of Us Part 2 doesn't take any of these other categories, it'll probably take something like this, but again, it's anybody's ball game in that one. So now we come to best role-playing game. Now, this one, I saw a lot of people talking about this, right? There's a lot of arguments for each one of these games, but also some of the games that weren't considered. So the nominees for best role-playing game are Final Fantasy VII Remake, okay, Genshin Impact, Persona 5 Royale, Wasteland 3, and Yakuza Like a Dragon. Now, I didn't play Yakuza, I didn't play Wasteland 3, I didn't really play Genshin Impact like that. So really, the two big picks for me would be Final Fantasy VII Remake and Persona 5 Royal. Now, here's the thing. A lot of people seem to be pretty upset that Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition did not get nominated here. And I can understand why. I can understand why it's not included here, but I also understand why people are upset because that was a really good game. And technically, if you're going to include Final Fantasy VII Remake in this, which technically it's essentially an entirely different game, Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition should be considered as well. But the problem and the difference here is between those two titles is that Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, even though it's kind of a remake here and there, it still is essentially much more of the same game as it was beforehand, with mostly like a graphical upgrade and a few other quality of life changes in comparison to what Final Fantasy VII Remake is, which is almost an entirely different experience. So I could totally understand that. Now, at the same time, you could argue that Persona 5 Royal is really just essentially the same exact game with the same exact problem. I think that what it really came down to here, they probably did consider Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, and they saw that many more people really loved Persona 5 Royal than they did Xenoblade. I know that some people might not agree with that. I know that some people might say, no, JJ, you're wrong and stuff, but that might be the reality of the situation. Because real talk, if I had to choose like what was up with these nominees, I wouldn't include Wasteland 3 in here because I heard nobody talk about Wasteland 3. I don't know one person that has talked about this game. So I would have dropped that and included Xenoblade Chronicles instead. But again, that's just my own personal opinion. So let's move on to the next category, best fighting game, which is it's kind of light, but I feel like this is going to be an easy picking for a lot of people. The nominees, right, are Grand Blue Fantasy Versus, which is brand new this year, Mortal Kombat 11 Ultimate, Street Fighter V Champion Edition, One Punch Man, A Hero Nobody Knows, and Under Night In Birth EXE, okay, which has all this extra stuff in it. But I tell you right now, Mortal Kombat 11 is taking this. Straight up. Mortal Kombat 11 is taking this nominee. Okay, the reason being is because you have a lot of people that love Mortal Kombat 11. It's really awesome. It has all that extra great, fantastic DLC content that a lot of people love. It made a big splash with all those guest characters. In comparison to Street Fighter V, which Street Fighter V has been a roller coaster of emotions, Grand Blue Fantasy, I don't hear a lot of people talk about. I know it's brand new, and I know there's been some positive buzz about it, but hardly anybody I see really discuss this game. And then One Punch Man, again, it's an anime-based game. I've heard nobody talk about it whatsoever. So now moving on to best family game. Okay, this one's another weird one. Animal Crossing New Horizons. Okay, we have Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time. Fall Guys Ultimate Knockout. Mario Kart Live Home Circuit. Minecraft Dungeons. Paper Mario, The Origami King. So again, you can make an argument for any one of these games. I personally think that Animal Crossing can take it. I also think that Crash Bandicoot 4 can take it. As far as family games, you could say the same thing for games like Fall Guys, which are really family-oriented and really kind of like mainstream. And the same thing with Minecraft Dungeons, simply because of the Minecraft name. But this one's going to be weird. I feel like a lot of people would vote for Paper Mario, or they would probably vote for, Animal Crossing, more than likely. But I don't know. We'll see who takes this one, but my pick would be Animal Crossing. So best sim and strategy is going to be Crusader Kings, Desperados 3, Gears Tactics, Microsoft Flight Simulator, and XCOM Shimmer Squad. I'm not giving a pick on this because I haven't played any of these games. Not really my genre. Let's move on. Best sports and racing game, I'm going to say the same thing, but the nominees for those are Dirt 5, F1 2020, FIFA 21, NBA 2K21, and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2, which I think Tony Hawk is going to take this, hands down, without question. So many people love Tony Hawk. So many people also hate a lot of the other sports games, especially the EA ones as of late because of the microtransaction stuff. So I think Tony Hawk is going to take this. Best multiplayer. Now, here's another one that has a lot of stuff going on for it, and it's the same thing I discussed before, right? The nominees are Animal Crossing New Horizon, Among Us, Call of Duty Warzone, Fall Guys Ultimate Knockout, and Valorant. Like I said, there's a very hard argument that you can make for Among Us to not be included in this list for this year because this game did not come out in 2020. I totally understand that. Because of that, I would say that the best one out of this list would be Animal Crossing because Animal Crossing had a huge splash. It still has a lot of presence. It still has a lot of relevancy, and a lot of people are really going nuts over this game. In comparison to Call of Duty Warzone, Fall Guys Ultimate, and Valorant, which those games have big audiences. You could argue they probably have bigger audiences, and at that point, the biggest audience wins. But personally, for me, if I had to choose one, it would probably be Animal Crossing New Horizon, solely because I don't think that Among Us should be included on any of these lists, because of it being a game that did not come out this year. But like I said, that's my opinion. Let me know in the comments down below your thoughts about that. Now, there's other categories in here, which we're not going to get too much into, because we have Content Creator of the Year, we have Best Debut Game, we have Best Esports Athlete, and all the other esports categories and stuff, which they're fine. I mean, I don't really dive into those. I still vote on them when I can, at least the ones I most recognize, or at least, have some sort of resonance with, but they're not really that important to me in the context of this discussion. So those are all the nominees and my personal picks and opinions about everything going on with the Game Awards 2020. Like I said, talk to me in the comments down below. What are some of your thoughts? What are the games that you guys want to see win? Which one do you want to see for Game of the Year come out on top? Like I said, I'm voting for Final Fantasy VII Remake, and my close second would be Ghost of Tsushima. But there's a lot of big games in here, especially some really powerful, really popular, really hype ones that people can make a super strong argument for each one. But anyway, those are just my opinions. I will talk to you guys again very soon on the next episode of JJ's One Man Podcast. Hopefully you guys have been enjoying all the different content I've been posting up on the channel. So take it easy, guys. Peace out and stay epic, everybody.